There, how are you? Take off your headphones. You're upsetting me today. This is being recorded. Great way to start a video. Hi kids, how are you? Welcome. This is Academic Decathlon for 2025. Subject matter, mathematics. Yep, I've got some guests in the classroom today. And this is our warm-up. And we're dealing about special right triangles on worksheet number 11. We learned about Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared, which is true for all right triangles. And this is our warm-up. It says, hey, if x times rad 2 equals 24, find out what x squared is. Okay, x squared. So we want to isolate the variable. What's happening to the variable is being multiplied by radical 2. So we can divide by rad 2, and you get x equals 24 over rad 2. Now, if they asked you for x, you would not be able to leave that. You cannot have a radical in the denominator in your final answer. And we cannot divide 24 by rad 2 because radical, the 2 is inside the radical, the 24 is outside. They are unlike. So we can't. And rad 2 is not a perfect square, so that can't be simplified. You wouldn't put it in the calculator because rad 2 is irrational. Square root of 2 produces an irrational number. It doesn't repeat. It doesn't terminate. So none of those things help us. And I would have to what we call rationalize the radical. But we don't have to do that because we're going to square it. It wants to know what x squared is. So let's do it this way. So if this is what x is, then x squared would be that value squared. And we could look at it through either distributing that, or we could look at it as 24 over rad 2 times 24 over rad 2. That's what squaring is. 24 times 24 is some humantic number that I don't know. 576. An outstanding student would know their 24 squaring. They would know perfect squares up to 25. An outstanding student. I'm a satisfactory student at the moment. You should have seen how many mistakes I made on 11. And rad 2 times rad 2, any radical times itself comes out of the house. And then we take half, which would have just given me 144. How do you know it was 144 so easily, Mr. Mack? I don't, because I did it wrong. It would actually be, hey, there's my first mistake. I'm one problem in. I've already made one mistake. 288. X squared is equal to 288. That was close. All right. Still warming up. 1/2 x equals 36. We're going to multiply by the reciprocal in order to get the variable, and that gives us 72. And now it wants to know, find 3 rad x. Well, we're going to substitute 72 in for x. 72 is not a perfect square, but it has perfect square factors. I would make it into rad 36, rad 2. Mr. Mack, why didn't you choose rad 8, rad 9? You could have, because this is a perfect square. But I picked 36 because that was the bigger perfect square. Could you have picked rad 3, rad 14? No, that's not 14. 24? 324? Yeah, 324. Why wouldn't you pick that? Because neither of these are perfect squares. When you break up your factor pairs, you want one of those to be a perfect square in order to simplify. And rad 36 is a perfect square, so it becomes 6, and you get 18 rad 2 would be your answer. So 3 rad x simplifies to 18 rad 2. We have x rad 3 times rad 3 equals 33. Again, we could divide by rad 3. X equals 33 divided by rad 3. This 3 and the 33 cannot cancel. And then we want to find 2x. So this time we do want to rationalize it, because if we multiply it by 2, we're going to get 66 rad 3, and we can't have a radical in the denominator. So we have to get rid of that radical. What would we multiply the denominator to get rid of it? What gets rid of a rad 3? A rad 3, very good. And if we want to keep it equivalent, we would have to multiply it by rad 3 over rad 3, which is a value of 1. If we multiply these, that becomes 3 in the denominator. That becomes 66 rad 3, which is okay to have a radical in the numerator, but we would want to simplify that fraction. And that final answer becomes 22 rad 3 would be your answer, your acceptable answer. All right, special right triangles. Before we dealt with any type of right triangle, but we do have special right triangles, and this is a 30, 60, 90. 30, 60, 90, which represent the degrees of the angles, and this is going to be your short leg. This is going to be your long leg, and this is always going to be your hypotenuse, and there's a relationship between it. Your long leg is going to be your short leg rad 3. Your hypotenuse is going to be twice your short leg. So if we have A, B, and solve for C, well, first of all, A is equal to 7. B is 7 rad 3, which coincides with that. So my C, which is my hypotenuse, is going to be twice my short leg. If this is my short leg, then C is going to equal 14. How nice and easy is that? Yes, that's why we like 30, 60, 90s. We have to pay attention to which variable we're plugging into. B equals 5 rad 3. My hypotenuse is 10. So what is my short leg? A is going to be my short leg. So it's going to be half the hypotenuse, or 5. Or we would know it's the coefficient of rad 3. So A equals 5. Look how fast and easy this is. Oh, just you wait. They get fun. So A is my short leg, 2 rad 3. C is 4 rad 3. Double this times 2 would give you 4 rad 3. And then what is B? Remember, B is x rad 3. And this represents the x. So we're going to have 2 rad 3 times rad 3. We can multiply rad 3 times rad 3, which equals 3. 2 times 3, which is 6. So my B value is 6. Nice and fun. A is going to equal rad 3. B is going to equal 3, which is true because this would be rad 3 times rad 3. And C is going to be 2 rad 3 because we double my short leg. So rad 3 times 2 is 2 rad 3. And that's it. Now we have a 45, 45, 90. Also a famous where your legs are x's or a, and your hypotenuse is your leg times rad 2. So if D equals rad 6, that's your leg, E is definitely going to be rad 6 because it is equal angle, so this is an isosceles triangle, and then this is going to be rad 6 times rad 2, which gives you 2 rad 3. Whoa, Mr. Mack, you didn't even do any work there. Nope. Instead of multiplying rad 6 times rad 2 to get rad 12, that would be very inefficient because I'd be building it up just to break it down. Just like in fractions, we're going to break rad 6 into rad 3 rad 2 times that rad 2 because I saw that they were going to have a common factor. So the 2 comes out rad 3. That's a nice, efficient way of doing that one. D is 3. That means E is 3. And F is 3 rad 2. Yep, that makes sense because it's the leg times rad 2. That's easy. E is 5 rad 2 over 2, which cannot be simplified, which is an acceptable answer if we wanted it there. What is D? I mean, that was way too easy. 5 rad 2 over 2. That's an acceptable, and that equals F. And that makes sense because we're multiplying by 2 rad 2. Yeah, look at that. So if you had rad 2 over 2 times rad 2, you get this times this would be 5 over 2, and the 2, and then they cancel. That's why you get the 5. That's why F is equal to 5. That's a good one. D and E, 2 and 2, so F is going to be 2 rad 2. That's how nice. And kids, that was one of the fastest videos that we've done in a long time. Good luck. Come and see me if you have any questions. You do need to memorize those templates for 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90.